In the final years of World War II, when the world was drowning in destruction and desperation, a secret race began, one that would determine not just who would win the war, but who would shape the future of the planet. While soldiers fought across oceans and continents, a different kind of battle unfolded in the shadows. It was a race of minds, of equations, of men who held the power to change existence itself. This was the birth of the Manhattan Project. It started with a letter, one that would alter the course of history. In 1939, two scientists, Albert Einstein and Leo Szilard, wrote to President Franklin D. Roosevelt. They warned that German scientists were experimenting with uranium, and that such work might lead to an unimaginably powerful bomb. The idea struck fear and urgency into Roosevelt's mind. If Hitler's Germany was even close to such a discovery, the balance of the war and perhaps the world could collapse overnight. In that moment, America decided it could not risk falling behind. What began as a scientific precaution quickly turned into the most secret and ambitious project the world had ever known. The goal was simple in theory, yet impossible in scale: to harness the power locked inside the heart of the atom. Across the United States, entire towns were built from nothing, hidden behind barbed wire and guarded by silence. Los Alamos, New Mexico; Oak Ridge, Tennessee; Hanford, Washington. To outsiders, they were just empty stretches of land. But inside, some of the brightest minds in physics, chemistry, and engineering gathered under one banner. Among them was a man whose name would become forever linked to both genius and guilt: J. Robert Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer, a brilliant but troubled physicist, became the scientific director of the Manhattan Project. He was fascinated by theory, by the beauty of mathematics, yet he now found himself leading an effort to create the most devastating weapon in human history. Under his leadership, scientists worked day and night in secret laboratories. They argued over theories, worried about calculations, and tested materials that no one had ever imagined could unleash such force. Every decision carried the weight of the world. The men and women of the project were torn between two fears: that they might fail and that they might succeed. For as the months passed, reports came from Europe, rumors that German physicists were indeed racing toward the same discovery. The race for the atomic bomb had truly begun. At Los Alamos, the desert air shimmered under the heat of secrecy. Scientists walked with notes hidden in briefcases, guarded by armed soldiers. Conversations were whispered. Even families of the workers didn't know the full truth of what was happening behind those fences. They only knew that something immense was being built, something that could end the war. But not everyone believed it was the right path. Many scientists struggled with the moral burden of their work. They were not soldiers. They were thinkers, dreamers, builders of knowledge. Yet here they were crafting an instrument of unimaginable destruction. Oppenheimer himself often stared out into the empty desert, wondering what their creation would mean for the world beyond the war. Meanwhile, across the ocean, Nazi Germany was collapsing. The Allies were closing in. Hitler's scientists had failed to unlock the secret of atomic fission in time. But Japan still fought fiercely, refusing to surrender despite devastating losses. To American leaders, the atomic project now became a potential endgame, a way to force surrender without invading Japan at the cost of countless lives. By mid-1945, after years of relentless effort, the scientists were ready to test their creation. The chosen site was a barren stretch of desert near Alamogordo, New Mexico, known as the Jornada del Muerto, the Journey of the Dead. The irony of the name was not lost on anyone. The test was codenamed Trinity. In the pre-dawn darkness of July 16, 1945, men gathered in silence around bunkers and observation posts. The bomb had been assembled.
an object no larger than a car engine, yet capable of changing the shape of history. A countdown began. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. A flash of light erupted, brighter than the sun, filling the desert with blinding radiance. A column of fire rose into the sky, painting it with colors no human had ever seen. The ground shook, the mountains echoed. In that instant, humanity had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. Oppenheimer watched in awe and horror. Later, he would recall words from the ancient Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." Around him, the men cheered, some with relief, others with trembling hands. They had succeeded. The impossible had been made real. News of the successful test reached Washington. President Truman, who had taken office after Roosevelt's death, now faced a choice that would haunt history. The war in Europe was over, but Japan still refused to surrender. The cost of an invasion was estimated in millions of lives. The atomic bomb offered an alternative: swift, decisive, final. After deep debate, the decision was made. The weapon that had been built in secrecy would now be revealed to the world. In early August 1945, the bomb was dropped on Japan, bringing the war to an end within days. The devastation was beyond imagination. Cities were erased in seconds. The world stood in shock. But even as the celebrations began, silence filled the hearts of the scientists who had made it possible. For some, it was victory. For others, it was unbearable guilt. The war had ended, but something far greater had begun. Humanity had opened the door to a new age, one defined not by courage or conquest, but by the power to destroy itself. In the years that followed, the world entered a tense new era, the atomic age. Nations raced to build their own bombs, each one more powerful than the last. The very discovery that was meant to bring peace now threatened the survival of civilization. Oppenheimer became a symbol of this paradox, a man celebrated as a hero and condemned by his own conscience. He spoke publicly about the dangers of atomic weapons, warning that mankind could not live under the shadow of such power forever. The story of the Manhattan Project is not just about science or war. It's about the fragile line between progress and destruction, between human genius and human fear. It is a story of minds that reached for the stars and touched fire instead. When the war finally ended, the world rejoiced, but something deep had changed. Humanity had seen its own potential to create and to annihilate. From that day forward, the world would never again be innocent. As the dust settled over a planet that had just survived its deadliest war, one truth became clear. The atomic bomb did not just end a conflict, it began a question that still echoes through time. And in that echo lies the haunting reflection of Oppenheimer's words. They built it to end the war, but it changed the world instead.